What's going on, YouTube? This is BBSP. I wanted to return and do a video. I haven't done a basketball topic today, but I checked out. I checked out Julius Erving's interview with Chris Haynes on his podcast, and he made there's a big commotion going around saying he omitted LeBron James from his all-time teams. Well, technically he had him on his third team, but he didn't have him on his first two teams. Reason being is because he's somewhat docking LeBron for handpicking his teams, his so-called super teams, whatever. But yeah, I think his first team he had Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. Second team had Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Karl Malone. That's a weird pick. Because I don't see Karl Malone on a lot of first and second teams. Well, second teams, but not technically second teams. But yeah, Karl Malone, yeah, Larry Bird, and had Kareem on the second team. Yeah, well, but excuse me for for everything. I'm just here. But yeah, for me, it's not a big deal to me. I mean, because that's his preference, rather, because those are the players that came from his era. You notice not only he omitted LeBron, he omitted a lot of guys. Like I didn't see no Shaq, I didn't see Duncan, I didn't see Kobe, I didn't see Akeem, I didn't see no, I didn't see even guys like Isaiah Thomas or Steph Curry or guys like even Kevin Durant. So LeBron wasn't the only guy he omitted. There's a lot of guys that don't have Michael Jordan on the first team. Case in point, Julius Erving. Even Julius Erving, from what I understand, he doesn't consider Michael Jordan the GOAT. So, that's his personal preference or personal opinion. I have no problem with it, at the end of the day, because that's from his perspective, number one. And number two, these are the players that he either idolized, number one, or he played against, number two. Case in point, guys like Kareem, Larry, Magic, Karl Malone, and for a little bit of time, for a little bit of time he played with Mike, and he played against Karl Malone. Because Karl Malone came in the league, what was that, 85? That was the final couple years Dr. J was in the league, so that's from his perspective. But the thing I'm trying to, understand is, like, this term super team is starting to become a real nuisance, okay? A lot of people are saying that the super team era started with LeBron James, which is farther from the truth, okay? It's farther from the truth, all right? And the thing is, though, they try to label whatever team LeBron James is on a super team. Well, you want to be honest, the only quote-unquote super team, or actually he played for, was the Miami Heat, because you had another top five player in Dwayne Wade, and that was it. Chris Bosh was irrelevant. Chris Bosh, I'm not saying he was irrelevant. Let me take that back. Chris Bosh was a borderline top 20 player at that time, top 15 if he was lucky, And I'm a result-based business, okay? I don't just go off of big names on paper, Like, we go all the way back. Have people forgotten about Bill Russell Celtics? He played with 8, 9 Hall of Famers. You can name them. Cousy, Havlicek, Casey Jones, Frank Sanders, you name it. Hall of Fame coach, Red Auerbach. For a time being, he played with what's that guy? What's his name? Man, I can't even. Oh wow. Damn, shame I forgot that. Then you had 76ers with Luke Jackson, Al Greer, Wilt Chamberlain, of course. You could easily consider that a so-called super team, right? Then Chamberlain, West, Baylor with the Lakers, and it goes on and on. The 80s Celtics, the 80s Lakers. Hell, it's just, you can make a case that the Detroit Pistons were a damn near close to being a super team. The Bad Boy Pistons, okay? So what's this notion about LeBron James started all this super team shit, right? We've had super teams that so-called super teams that succeeded and so-called super teams that came up short. All right, so I don't understand why this vitriol is being aimed towards LeBron James starting this super team shit, because that's further from the truth. He may have given the players more of a flexibility as far as like dictating their own destiny, but you got to understand, people act like I said, hell, 96 Bulls, super team, right? The 96 Bulls were a super team with all things to consider. Jordan, the best player in the NBA, hands down. Scottie Pippen, one of the most all-around players of that decade. Probably a top 5 player. Was definitely a top 5 player by the 94 season. Dennis Rodman, one of the best and greatest rebounders and one of the best defenders in the last decade on that team. And plus, you got complementary parts like Toney, which is probably the most sought-after European player in the NBA. The European player in the world. Sought-after European player in the world, excuse me. Then you had strong role players like Steve Kerr. Then you had a former, All-Star in Ron Harper, right? That could be considered a super team. Matter of fact, it was a super team for that era if you want to go by every criteria. You know? When you think about it, that 96 Bulls team was the same model as that Big Three in Miami and the Big Three in Boston. Big Three in Boston came about, they were a super team, okay? Where you had 3 20-point per game scores, that's a so-called super team right there. Right there. I don't give a damn what nobody says. And even prior to the Miami Heat, when the Miami Heat formed, 2010-2011 season, you still had the Big Three in Boston. Plus, they brought over Shaq, even though Shaq was past his prime. Jermaine O'Neal. You still had Kendrick Perkins, even though he got traded a year later, right? And most people, then you had teams like the Atlanta Hawks with Joe Johnson, Al Horford, all those guys. You had the up-and-coming young Chicago Bulls with Carlos Boozer, a young MVP up-and-coming Derrick Rose, Luol Deng, Joakim Noah. Then you had, in the Western Conference, a young OKC team, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka. You had the defending champs, the Lakers, with Kobe Gasol, Ron Artest, and Lamar Odom, all those guys. And so let's not act like that Miami Heat team, even though they were a super team, let's not act like they were running away with the competition, because from what I remember, most people thought that wasn't even going to work out. And when you look at that first year, they struggled. They struggled at the beginning of the season. They struggled at the middle of the season. So I don't know how people can sit back and say they were the only super team around when you still have Boston in the Eastern Conference. And don't give me that shit where they were past their prime. They weren't past their prime. They may have been at the tail end of their prime, but they were still good enough to get into the second round and still good enough a year later to get to the conference finals. Okay? And this notion that this the thing. This the thing right here. If the '96 Bulls weren't a super team, right? If the '96 Bulls weren't a super team, right? Then why do most '90s guys have the '90s Bulls beating the so-called super team Cleveland Cavaliers? That Cleveland Cavaliers team was nowhere near nowhere near a super team. You had LeBron James and Kyrie Erving, who was an all-star. Kyrie Erving didn't even make the playoffs before LeBron got there. Kyrie Erving didn't even have success before LeBron got there. Kevin Love was putting empty stats in Minnesota, right? And it's not like he had a bad team up there, because he had Corey Brewer number one, Nikola Petrovic number two, the big Russian guy. I gotta look that up, but all I know is that Kevin Love couldn't even make the playoffs in Minnesota, right? They had no kind of success. Neither Kevin Love or Kyrie Irving had no kind of success before LeBron James came out to Cleveland. So how in the hell was that a super team? Okay, that was nowhere near a super team. They might have been one of the best teams in the league, but they weren't no overwhelming favorites during their time together. Nowhere near no overwhelming favorites. When you had Golden State, who was a well-rounded team, probably the best team in the league, and you had the defending champions right when LeBron came back in the San Antonio Spurs, who were still formidable, right? So how the hell are the Cleveland Cavaliers a super team when most of us think that the '96 Bulls would beat that team, right? So how in the hell is that a super team? Somebody gotta let me know about that shit. And people who are trying to make this Lakers team a super team is now that's a joke. That's a joke, okay? How the hell was that a super team when most people picked the Clippers to win the championship last year? See, people are moving the goalposts when it comes to LeBron, man. First, they say they weren't gonna win no championships in LA. Then, they just go by speculation. A lot of people go by speculation and don't want to face reality of the situation, what really happened. Oh, he tried to get Kawhi to go there. The shit didn't happen. He ended up going to the Clippers. So, y'all gonna dock LeBron for that? Then he tried to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, which is bullshit to me. That whole narrative was made up by the media. There was no way Giannis was leaving Milwaukee to go to LA. There might have been speculation, but it's no different than from what other rumors we done heard in years past. So, LeBron James has a lot of critics and naysayers out there. No matter what he does, he's never gonna get any credit. He's never gonna get any credit. And like, end of the day, it's like they put everything on his shoulders. They put everything on his shoulders. Oh, it's his fault the league is like this, or it's his fault the ratings are sliding. Well, thing is, there are many factors into why the NBA's ratings are dropping. All right, many factors in that bullshit. Many factors to that bullshit. So for you people to lay it solely on LeBron James is irresponsible, and it just contradicting yourself and being hypocritical, man. You're being hypocritical and shit. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? People, they don't really take context into what's going on. They just go by emotion. They just go by what they want to see, and they make up a narrative. They make up a narrative. Especially when it pertains to LeBron James. Now, like I said before, I don't have a problem with what Julius said as far as his team goes. If he doesn't feel LeBron James is their first or second teamer, hey, that's fine. But we got to stop with this narrative that every team that LeBron James on outside of Miami Heat is a super team, which is far from the case. You know, and I feel like it's a bullshit narrative that people run with. The media have run with it. Certain old heads from the past have run with. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. Somebody got to explain to me why. But end of the day, like I said before, man, it's like it's a running narrative to disrespect LeBron James for whatever reason. I don't know why, but a lot of it has to do with envy. A lot of it has to do with the position LeBron's in and the position he's been for the past decade as far as competing for championships, being perceived as the top player in the league for a decade. You may not come off like as far as that goes, but you got a lot of players and ex-players in the league that kind of resent that. They kind of resent the fact that LeBron James has been atop this long. But end of the day, like I said before, this whole super team thing is starting to get very, very overrated as far as what actually is a super team and what super team actually had a success. Hell, my last point, Kobe Bryant. They tried to get Kobe Bryant on super team twice. So what does that tell you right there? But I don't see nobody holding it against him. But yet, you got Kevin Durant out here making another super team. But yet, he went to Golden State and made probably one of the weakest moves of all time, It's not the fact that he left OKC, right? I had no problem with him leaving OKC. It's who he went to. Right? It's who he went to that basically, broke all the rules. And to be honest with you, KD's probably stacked the date more so than any other all-time great. That's including LeBron James. So don't sit here and tell me, oh, LeBron stacked the deck of Cleveland and the Lakers. No, he didn't. That's bullshit. Because because when you look at those Golden State teams, they were always favored, except for maybe one finals. They were always favored. They're always favored against the Cavaliers. Every final they played except for 2016, maybe. Well, 2016, yeah. Well, I take that back. 2015, it was like a toss-up, but 2016, 2017, and especially 2018, Golden State was favored all the way through. And like I said last year, the Lakers weren't even projected to win the championship. Hell, even last year, teams like Milwaukee and teams in the West were projected to win the championships before the Lakers. So, like I said before, man, this whole super team thing is starting to become narrative driven. It's agenda driven by certain members here on YouTube and everything else. But hey, what the hell do I know? Tell me what y'all think.